Hello and welcome to today's IG Live. I'm so happy to be welcoming our guest, Sabrina Zohar, and we are going to be talking about dating empowerment today. We have 30 minutes with this amazing guest who I've been taking her courses, and I'm in a relationship, and I'm in a great relationship, but I'm just going to say that I learned a lot from Sabrina this week, these months, these weeks that I've been taking her courses. And I think today, I hope that if you are looking for love and if you're dating, if you are struggling in that realm with finding love, I think Sabrina is going to bring a lot to our chat today. So I hope that if you're joining us, please put your questions in the chat for Sabrina. And here we go. I'm going to welcome her. So thank you for joining us today. And please, if you are with us, tell me where you're from, and we're going to welcome Sabrina and really take this 30 minutes and ask your questions for dating and love and relationships. New York City, fantastic. I love New York. Oh, there you are. Hi, Sabrina. I see you.
Hi.
Oh, hi, sweetheart. It worked.
Yay!
I'm telling you, there's the full moon. It's been going on and all my technology, but I'm so happy to meet you. Oh my goodness,
So
you're so beautiful.
likewise, I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm glad that we got through the technical difficulties because my life story is technical difficulties. So let's get to it.
I'm not great with technology. Okay. Yesterday, I was with Dr. Shafali, and you know what she said? I asked her, just blatantly, I'm like, okay, what is your definition of vulnerability? And you know what she said? She said, it is like admitting, like all of it, admitting just like who you are and your fallacies, you're just putting it out there, right? I mean, she's an expert, and she's like, she talks about like love and relationships all day long, about being like the best in relationships. But she's like, and I tell my partner, she's like, I'm constantly sabotaging my relationship. I'm constantly sabotaging. And she's like telling her partner this. I'm like, okay, that's great. That's great. I mean, just being honest, right?
Yeah.
All right. But
I'm
just being honest right now. I'm really, really bad with technology.
Don't worry about it. We will hear. Oh, as some people are saying, I can't hear you. Who can they let us know who you can't hear so we can fix any issues or errors if we have any? But I'm excited.
Okay,
Yay!
so we're gonna get through this, and we're gonna talk about dating. And I mean, people have questions about everything to do with online dating, just dating in general, and just like finding your partner, and which I think we all like. We want that, right? But we may not be doing it in the right way, or like approaching it. We're gonna talk about that in the podcast too. But
Yeah.
okay, we've got this time.
Let's do it. And let's answer any questions. I'm here.
Of course. Okay. Thank you, Sabrina.
Of course.
How can I nurture a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on external validation? That's a big one.
It's
Start
a
off.
big. It's like, let's go in it. So I think when it comes to, when we're seeking external validation, what I really hear there is like, it's a lack of self-trust, because if I don't actually validate myself, if I don't acknowledge the things that I'm experiencing, if I don't trust myself that I'm valid for having these thoughts, feelings, and emotions, then I'm always going to be waiting for other people to tell me that it's okay for me to feel this, experience this, whatever it is. So I think at the end of the day, what we really have to look at is when we're talking about self-love, I think it's something that's been so hijacked is not a nice word, but I'm going to say it for argument's sake, in the sense where I think bubble baths and face masks have come out of, oh, just do that. You love yourself. And it's like, don't get me wrong. It's a nice way to say that I love myself, but that's not it. And what it really is, at least and personally for me, and what I really kind of love to do in the work that we do here is it's really about coming home to yourself, right? Like if I grew up in a household where being who I was not accepted, where I was reprimanded or put down or shut down, or I had emotionally unavailable parent, you could have incredible parents that may just not have been able to support you in the ways that you needed. Then that my sense of self is now contingent upon other people telling me it's okay for me to do this or telling me it's not okay for me to do that. So then really what we have to start to understand is when we don't trust ourselves, when we don't love ourselves, when we're seeking that external validation, what are the sensations that are happening in our body? What is the narrative that we start to play with? Where did we learn that behavior from? Okay, valid. When I was 6, my dad used to yell at me anytime I had a need. And so now I'm scared to ask for my needs to be met in my adult life. Well, am I valid for having these needs? Yes. Okay, well, I validate that myself. I don't need somebody else to tell me that it's okay for me to have those needs.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Coming home to yourself.
It's my favorite aspect because I think when we're dating, so often we're especially like so much of the content that we ingest is everything about how to get someone else to choose us, but no one's really talking about how do we choose
Choose
ourselves,
ourselves.
right? Like how do we
Oh,
actually like
that is
come home
good.
to
That is
actually
really good.
say my priority is how I see myself, not how other people see me. And it's like, and I'm not saying that's easy, but we choose our heart, right? We get to choose what we put our energy and our attention. And I'd so much rather put my energy and attention onto me, which is the longest relationship I'll ever have, than on these random people that we're meeting on the internet that we don't even know their middle name or if they're real. And we're so focused on if they're going to choose us.
Right. I think this is where we're coming, Sabrina. We're getting to, and thank God we are this place where we're looking inside first,
I
and valuing ourselves more. Because really, it's not about this other person. They're strangers. Like, when you're dating somebody, it's just like, honestly, that person is a stranger until proven otherwise, until like many, many, many dates. So don't
100%.
give them all this credit. Like, first date,
No.
second date, third, like, no,
And
no.
I was like, and I'll be honest, I was her. I was
I
that girl that after
was
one
too.
date, oh my goodness, like everything was, but are they going to call me? Why haven't they texted me? And I think really where it came down to, because somebody wrote here, where I swear I'm stuck working on choosing myself. And I think that's such a beautiful place
Yes.
to actually be because where that is it's such a precipice. It's at such a fork in the road because now we get to look and say, okay, what parts of myself don't I want to choose? What parts of myself are hard for me to choose? And for me, like when I started my career, I had to face very head on. I feel like I'm a lot. I talk fast. I curse. I'm a quick thinker. I don't think like other people. I have other thought processes of, hey, this doesn't sound right. Can we talk about it? And I could have hated myself and shamed myself and all of those things. But at the end of the day, I actually had to love those parts of myself because those are the parts of myself that made me unique and special. And those are the parts of myself that made my partner love me, as opposed to hating those parts and wanting them to change, because then you're just kind of at war at yourself and consistently self-abandoning.
Oh my goodness. And now we're going to talk about this in the podcast. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. How can I shift my focus from trying to fix my partner to understanding and healing my own relational patterns? You actually talk a lot about this. You do a great job in your course talking about this a lot about patterns, right, Sabrina?
Yeah.
So, because it's like, what is it? Like, is it me or is it them? Like,
Yeah. And
differentiating.
oftentimes what we see is when because I see this every day and I used to be her. So like I always like to preface that so there's not a shame behind it. It's not like I'm
No.
in my high castle looking down. And oftentimes what happens is when we're so focused on trying to fix somebody else, it's an excuse that we don't have to look at ourselves. Because if I can focus on them, I don't have to focus on myself. And we see this every day of like, well, why don't they do all of these things? And it's like, okay, so my question back is, well, why do you keep allowing it? Because if you're looking at someone saying, I'm trying to fix them, the reality is no one's broken. What are we fixing? You're not
Oh
a
my, oh,
broken
oh my
toy,
goodness. Oh my goodness. This is, yeah.
right? You're healing. And so right now we want to look at, can that person heal? And if that person doesn't have the capacity to heal, not fix themselves, then unfortunately at the end of the day, there's not really much anybody can do to help the other person.
Oh my gosh, I love
Right?
like something that you said. Like, there was so much that you during your course. I loved it. I really, really did, Serena. And you said this about even your partner, right? Around and yourself around um you look just looking at yourself and your patterns is like if are you well you actually help people address is like is this my stuff or is it and you're looking for a person that's growth mindset that was like so key of course because if that person is not going to work on their own stuff There's nothing you can do.
Exactly. There's,
But
I
that's
see this
so
every day.
important.
Because you can't change other people. Look at how, if we could change other people, then my videos would have changed the world by now. But the reality is, I don't have the control, and neither does anyone else. And if
No.
somebody is, we have to often look like we usually obsess over the people that don't make us feel safe. And we typically do that because we want that safety. We're craving that person to just choose us. And at the end of the day, that's never going to actually lead you to the healthy and secure relationship that you genuinely are deserving of. But if we don't really acknowledge and take up space in that truth. And again, someone said it's easier said than done. It's like, again, and I don't know who said this was easy. I don't know, but you know what is harder
There's
actually?
nothing easy.
No, what is easy? Waking up every day is fucking hard. But what's actually harder is staying in something that's not for you and consistently self-abandoning so that you have to water yourself down just to have somebody next to you.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
So well said. That's really well said. How can I identify the specific behaviors I tend to repeat that contribute to unhealthy relationship dynamics? So is it like this is so much about introspection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
That's where self-awareness starts to get cultivated of what's my part,
mm-hmm.
not what's my fault, no, it's how did I contribute to this dynamic. And for a long time, my sister always used to say, Sabrina, you're the common denominator. And I would snap back and say, you just don't get me. And you don't understand. You met your husband when you were 19 and you don't, blah, blah, blah. No, she was right. I was the common denominator. I was, because I was the middleman for all of these experiences. It wasn't my fault, but I played a part in that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we have to do is this is where we objectively have to zoom out and kind of say, wait a minute, what do I consistently see, right? What are my patterns? Oh, I always date avoidance. Okay, there's something to it, right? And then that's something I
Like
consistently, like,
I'm being avoidant,
right,
right?
like
Would you
I had somebody write in saying, I've done the course, I've done all this, I've been in therapy, but I always go for narcissists. Nothing's helping. And it's like, okay, we need to zoom out. What is your part? If you're consistently going for a specific type, like a narcissist who is a love bomber, comes in really strong, typically grandiose, is really just about them. They don't really actually, you're a pawn in their scheme. They don't really genuinely have those feelings. So then that common denominator could be, wow, I don't set boundaries. Boundaries are scary for me because I had childhood abandonment or whatever, right? Whatever, the slew of things that we've experienced as humans. And it's just taking ownership of, yes, every single time I'm dating somebody, when it comes to having a hard conversation, I shut down and I can't do it. Okay, that's my dynamic. And that's why I consistently date people that are emotionally unavailable, because I myself have no idea how I feel right now. So
that's great.
it's dating is a
Yeah.
mirror. And so if you consistently have a pattern, then you are consistently playing into that pattern. Again, it's not shame or blame. This is accountability so that you actually have agency. You, the proverbial you, has agency to change their life.
Yes. And so when you see yourself doing this, you can recognize that pattern. So what you're helping people do is, okay, let's write this down, or like find a coach, or like, how can I identify the specific behaviors and change?
So, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, listen, I think all of us would love the easy, like, oh,
Yeah,
just do this and that's it. And
no,
it's like, the
there's,
reality is, to really be able to understand your patterns, you have to have somebody that is challenging you back, because
yes,
we're in our own loop. How am I going to create new neural pathways if there's no one teaching me? Or how would I have known about two conflicting thoughts if I didn't have a therapist that taught me how to have those? So for me, I think it's a coach, a therapist, a course, whatever feels like it aligns with you. Do something, because here's the reality. You can listen to every podcast and you can read every book, but if you intellectualize everything, you're not actually feeling. First thing.
you're not
Second
making
thing,
change.
no. And if you think that, not you, but if people think that everything is free, oh, I listened to this podcast and I just want to download this free guide. When you spend
No.
money on something, go book a therapy appointment. Now, I'm not saying you have to pay premium. When you put money, what you're telling yourself is, I'm worth this. I'm investing in myself. I'm going to show up because my money is my ticket and I'm paying I'm showing you that I care.
I really love that. So I used to be a matchmaker back in the day. And I said to my clients and my dating coaching clients, I would say, listen, they would say, well, why am I going to pay you? I'm like, well, are you investing in your love life? I mean, really, this is like, obviously I need to get paid for what I'm doing. And, and you also have to invest in what you actually make a priority. So if it's your healing, well, I like it. I like it.
Exactly.
All right. How can I distinguish between healthy compromises and people pleasing? Oh, this is a good question.
That's a good one. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with Matthias Barker. He's a therapist.
Oh,
Love him,
oh
and
yes. Oh my gosh, he's
he's great.
great.
And so he was in the show and we were talking about it. And he said one thing that really helped me to understand it. So I'm just going to regurgitate what he said. The difference is when you're people pleasing, is it being, what we have to look at is it hurtful or harmful? So is it hurtful? Am I hurting your feelings by saying this? I can hurt your feelings, or is it being harmful? And so it's like, am I harming the other person or myself by either not saying that? So if you are saying, people pleasing, if you're saying, that it's hard for you to say no, you don't have boundaries, you're uncomfortable letting people down, you just want people to like you, that people pleasing. And I'm going to say this, and it's a harsh word, it is manipulative when we think about it intrinsically as to what it is. It doesn't mean you're a manipulative person, but the
Mm,
act of it. Because what you're doing is, I don't want to say no because I don't want you to be upset. So if I say yes to you, then I'll be okay in your eyes. And so what it is, it's really is, if I do this, then you'll like me, then you'll choose me. And you're doing that so that somebody says, oh, okay, come here. But then what we have to look at is, so that's being harmful to yourself. You're not actually
mm.
expressing. Versus compromising is, I expressed myself, the other person expressed themselves, and we came cumulatively together to come up with a compromise that works for both of us, so that I'm not harming myself and self-abandoning just to get this person to like me.
Wow.
So when it comes to, like, say, texting, for instance, when I first met my partner, he did not want to text a lot. That was not his medium, and I did. People pleasing would have been, okay, I'll do whatever you want, yeah, I just won't say anything, I'll just play the cool girl. And I'm just like, nothing bothers me. And instead I was like, hey, I'd love more communication in between our dates to feel more connected to you. And he came back saying, I don't really want to be texting. And then we went back and forth, and I said, how does like a date night every week work for you? It'll help me feel a little bit better. Cool. He said, I'll call you instead of text you at the end of like every other day or whatever. We compromised so that both of us felt seen, heard, and understood. And okay, this works for the both of us.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Sabrina. I really, really do.
Yeah.
This is interesting because, well, with my partner, with my boyfriend, same thing, like similar in the fact that he doesn't want phone
Yeah.
calls. And for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just want to talk, right? Like I
Yeah.
really, really just want to hear your voice. And he's like, unless there's a reason. And I'm like, oh no, like what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Okay,
like,
okay.
and that's like somebody
So
even said
I'm like,
here,
okay, what is the compromise here? So now we do like voice text through the day, and we find we do videos, right? And then we see each other. Like, so it is a compromise, but it's not like it's honoring both of us.
right,
That's
exactly.
right.
It's like, that's what somebody actually said it very beautifully. People pleasing is one sided, whereas a compromise is both. But someone actually put, I
Right.
think people pleasers aren't worried about being liked as much as they are just not wanting to be left. But those are not mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive. You can people please because you're scared of being abandoned, because you want that person to choose you. So you want that
Mm,
person to validate and not leave you. Whatever it is, it's not like it's a blueprint that everybody people pleases for the same reasons, but at the root cause of it, it's an insecurity. You're not doing this coming from a place of empowerment and and strength and saying, well, this is how I feel and this is what I need. It's coming from a place of, I'm either scared of being abandoned, I don't want you to leave me, I want you to like me, please don't. So it's like, that's that's more of like, it could be a multitude of reasons, but at the end of the day, are you self-abandoning? Are you pushing aside what it is that you want and need in order for them to be happy? Well, then you're not actually, it's not a compromise anymore.
right. I really, really like that. That's good. How can I recognize early signs of compatibility or incompatibility in a new relationship?
Loaded question, because
It
it really, there's so many
is,
things
it
that are,
is, it is really
it's a
like
lot,
how,
right?
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, you have to know what's compatible for you. You have to know yourself enough to say, what are my wants, needs, and desires? What are my non negotiables? So, if religion, politics, race, if those are non negotiables, well, then off the bat, you'll be able to see if you're compatible or not, or if this is somebody that you want to pursue based off just basic aspects of what it is that I want and need. Then we have to look at, how does your nervous system feel with this person? Do you feel seen, heard, and understood? Do you feel safe with this person emotionally, not just physically, but of course as well? well physically. Do you feel like this person's reciprocal, that your energy is being matched and that you're both really putting in the same effort here? Do you feel they're consistent, their words and actions align, they're reliable? Those are all things that we want to look at. But compatibility really means, are you both heading towards the same direction? Do you both want the same things? Do you see that the future potentially could look like you guys could co-create it together? And sometimes you don't know that early on, right? But sometimes we do have to ask very specific questions. For me, it was important to ask my partner on the first date, do you want to get married and have kids? Where would you see yourself living in the long term? Are you cool with living in California, or do you want to move out of there? That way, if he said, I don't want children and I want to live in Spain for the rest of my life, I could have said, hey, well, that doesn't work for me. I don't think we're compatible here. So it's important to get rid of the like, oh, they're tall and they're attractive and they're active.
No,
It's
like
like,
all of that is so important in the beginning, right? To figure it out. So you did ask that on your first date, Sabrina?
oh yeah, I asked how'd your last relationship end and what did it teach you about yourself. I asked him like, do you want children? Do you want to get married? Where do you want to live? Just random things. And it wasn't obviously like a spitfire. We were together for like 3.5 hours. And to this day, when I ask him what made you want to see me again after that, he said the questions you asked. And I said, why? And he was like, because it showed me that you were a different type of person than the people that I had met. And it's like, we have to,
Wow.
and because he was looking for someone like me and I was looking for someone like him. And that's why we were able to come together and say, let's do this. But had I not shown up as me and him not showing up as him, how would he have ever known who I actually was?
Right.
Right? I wasn't scared of losing him. And that's the biggest thing. If you're terrified of that person not wanting to be with you after one date, then already we're at a disadvantage.
Right. I just think I wholeheartedly agree with this approach where you just want to put it out there on who you are and what you're looking for. Like
Early.
like right. Did you meet your partner online?
Yeah, we met online. We are very much we are the typical couple that should not have worked. I was
Yeah.
visiting. I was out of town. I was visiting. I wanted to get laid. I hooked up with him on the first date, and I left saying I'm probably never going to see this guy again. And he contacted me the next day, like later in the day, just saying I'm still smiling from last night. I really want to see you again. And I was like, oh. And so when I saw him, I said, let me just be very clear off the bat. If we're going to spend time together, we're building a relationship. I wanted to just explore that night, but that's not something I'm setting a precedence for. And he was for that. He was like, absolutely. He was like, I don't want casual at all. And I was like, perfect. And because the reality was, it was our intentions that really mattered and how we both showed up. Had I been super anxious and why aren't you texting me? I haven't heard from you. We would never have actually been able to
No.
grow because I would have been so focused on why aren't you choosing me as opposed to are we actually connecting?
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's not for everybody, right? Like, let me just preface, not everybody has to sleep with their partner on the first date,
No.
but it's more of just to have perspective shifts that
Yeah.
the clickbait on the internet that we see that like it's a death wish. It's like, it's not, but you also have to be in charge of your own emotions and feelings and reactions to be able to do that. And if you can't, that's okay. Don't do anything that you're not ready to do.
Right. One thing I did want to just mention, which we are going to talk about in the podcast too, but the non-negotiables. Because did you do you have, obviously we all have these non-negotiables, but I also think it's like maybe that's not a non-negotiable. Like it's like opening your mind. Like your partner, did he show up in different, like with different things than you actually, it was like that was a non-negotiable before and now it's not? Like, do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. As far as the non-negotiables are concerned, that really I was pretty clear on like there are certain things that this person needs to either agree with or have. So like for me, a non-negotiable is like you got to be done with your ex. I am
Yeah.
I am
Okay.
so tired of
Yeah.
like, I'm still hurt and it's like, then get the fuck out of the dating pool. Stop bringing other people down because you don't know how to manage your emotions. Go to therapy, do what you need to do, and then be clear with people from the get if you are not in a place to be in a relationship and let them make their decision. But like, none of us want to get hurt. None of us are looking to get into the dating world and say, oh, I hope that you break my heart. But it was really like for me, be done with your ex and just put
Yeah.
that aside. How do you speak about that person? It was important for me to understand, are you family oriented? Again, where is it that you see your life going? I have big dreams of where I want my life to
Yeah.
go. And I wanted to make sure that this person is in alignment. And the one thing he said to me on our first date was, I love strong women because I was raised by them. And I was like, perfect.
Oh,
And that,
nice.
so those like
Yep.
very non-negotiables that like you're consistent. My father was very inconsistent growing up and it really messed with me and it really caused so much anxiety. I'm not going to accept that. And so those non-negotiables, they just didn't waver. But then there are the flexible ones of like, they have to be, make this much money a year. And you're like, you know what? Honestly, as long as they're driven, that's what matters, because we're going to win, we're going to lose, we may fall on our face and lose everything, but we have to be able to rebuild. So to me, it's really, what are those non-negotiables that are fundamentally, you're not going to live without them? Mine really, truthfully, haven't changed because I stick pretty true to them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I really like your
Thank you.
non-negotiables. I really do. Those are solid. We should all have those though. I mean, for sure. In
And
a
also, it's more
partnership.
of
I
like
mean, really.
my mama has always said you got to love yourself more than the need to be loved by other people.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be able to step in and say, I'm going to hold on to these non-negotiables. And if that means I lose you, I don't worry, I'll open the door for you. Because if we don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And when you self-abandon and you continue to reach for someone who's not also reaching back, well, then say goodbye to your non-negotiables.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the time's gone. It's 1 o'clock. Oh my gosh! And thank you so much, Sabrina, for all
Yes.
your time, and for those of you that joined us, thank you so much. And we'll see you on the podcast.
Can't wait. I
Okay,
run.
bye.